zoom, zoom, whoosh, shop, shop. What's going on?
That's our intro. Just what's lightsaber? What's going on? That's the passion I really wanted to hear.
That's the passion you want to see from the last episode of Survivor StockWatch.
We're very excited.
Welcome everyone to the season finale of Survivor StockWatch for season 47. I am Jack. With me is Will. Will, how are you doing?
I could not be doing better right now. You know, we're doing really good over here on the Will front of things. Totally not sick right now. Totally did not sleep the last 24 hours. We're chilling. So
I feel the exact same way. To clear the air, we didn't do an episode last week. I had walking pneumonia. And I'm still kind of recovering from that, so I'm hanging in there. But I am here. I'm ready to do the last episode of the season. It's going to be a good one. Do we want to go ahead? Like, how should we reward ourselves for being right? Will should we should we do a dance?
I don't want to. I don't want to get up.
Fair. Okay.
We should record a TikTok tomorrow. That's what
TikTok. Doing what?
I don't know. If Tagwith can do it and get fame, then we can do it. Shout out to Tagwith and Survivor Soul.
Shout out to Tagwith. Can we get Tagwith on the podcast?
We can't say that about everyone.
Yes, we can. We said it. We said it about Greg Buis.
We said about Greg. No, the real person I really want to get on Survivor now is Colleen Haskell. Can we please get her back, bro?
That'd be good to see. You're watching Survivor Borneo right now, aren't you?
Yeah. So basically, I got sick on Christmas Day, and so I was just laying in bed. And I'm like, oh, I should watch some Survivor, and I was in the mood for something a lot slower paced, because I feel like Survivor 47 was very high octane gameplay. A lot of big movers and shakers this season. And so I wanted something with less gameplay and more personality, a lot more morality.
You took notes on it too?
I didn't. This is still my Survivor 47 notes because it's been a second since I saw anything Survivor 47 related. But I was thinking about it. I might watch South Pacific and take notes on that for an idea I have. But that's
interesting
for a later point.
Now, I will say, Will, you talked about this with me before the show, but there's a very nice statistic from Borneo that has been transferred over to Survivor 47. You want to go ahead and say it? I don't remember exactly how it's supposed to be.
So basically, Rachel this season has taken over the record for most confessionals from a woman since Kelly Wigglesworth in Survivor Borneo, which is insane to say, but also contextually it makes sense because the way Survivor Borneo was filmed, a lot of the confessionals were smaller. And so it's like on the marooning episode, right? It's like you'll get a one-off confessional from Stacey Stillman saying, oh, we're eating rats. It's like always a 2-second thing. And if you look at the confessional chart by speaking time and in length, it makes a lot more sense than just the raw confessional counts. But It's still an insane statistic, and I'm surprised that it started with Kelly and did not end until now.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's insane that 47 seasons, 23 and a half or something years later from that date, we are getting we're getting a woman with the most confessionals in a season all time. And not only that, but Jay, you're right. The most the most immunities won by a woman in a season. So we're breaking records. We didn't think we didn't think that happened, but we were pretty sure something great would come out of it. All right. Before we get into our final slides for the season, what you think about this season, Will? What's your opinion?
My opinion for the season is it's very weird because on one hand, it feels like a very top-heavy cast where I feel like there's a lot of big names. Like you think of
Mhm.
Genevieve, you think of Andy, Rachel, Sam. You can even throw in Teeny in there. But I feel like a lot of the other players just did not get the same amount of screen time. It did not feel very balanced. So like I think of Caroline, who honestly played one of the better games and had a very real winning path, right? If you're focusing on what's actually happening and not the edit. You can throw in Sierra, who for a little bit in the pre-merge we thought could go a lot farther. Annika didn't get that much screen time, and it felt very top heavy at a certain point. And I also think that it's very flashy of a season, right? So I think like Operation Italy carries it really hard. Rachel's impressive end game. I think it's a pretty good season. It's not my favorite of the new era. Honestly, it might be 40, 45, 46 still. Because it didn't feel as chaotic. It felt very controlled. Um, but I will say it felt like a modern era second chance in a way because it was so game heavy and game oriented. Everyone came
Yeah.
to play, and that's the one thing I will respect. Is just I'm a lot more character oriented.
Yeah,
You,
I,
Jack.
I think that's a good point. I think this season was very focused on the gameplay, and if that's your fancy, if that's your taste, this is your season. You know, you think about you think a little bit about Survivor 45, maybe you think a little bit about maybe 43, and you think about those seasons that are a little bit more maybe game heavy than character heavy compared to some of the competition like 44 and
Mhm.
46 in a way. Um, you know, like this is definitely one of the game heavier seasons. And again, if you like that,
Yeah.
that's your speed. This is going to be a good season for you. For me, I love the strategy. Don't get me wrong, but I've over the course of this podcast, I've fallen in love with the more character oriented seasons that can find the good bits of gameplay. I much prefer that to a season full of gameplay with character moments, which is what I think this season was. I mean, there were some like everybody had a moment this season. Everybody had some kind of theme going for them throughout the season at some point, but only rarely did it feel very character oriented.
Yeah.
You know, like Annika was very like micromanager in the pre-merge, and that was her theme. Asia was StockWatch's biggest loss in history, and that was her theme. Um, Teeny being Charlie Brown, that was her theme. There, you know, there's so many themes that are present, but it's really only contained as that. Whereas the gameplay and like the structure of the strategy, and you know, I think that's guided by players like Andy who are incredibly down to the nitty gritty, logical with how they go through confessionals. And just play the game. It's very here is this, here is this, here is that, here is this, and a lot of the players in this game did that. Not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying in terms of the other new era seasons, I feel like this didn't really rock the boat as
Yeah.
much. I don't really feel like it revolutionized the new era. Like if Survivor's goal, right? Not saying I agree with the goal, is to revolutionize Survivor every season. This wasn't really doing much for it. You know, we had some great statistics from the season, but not a lot to really change the ship. Not a lot of crazy
Yeah.
new gameplay, even though Operation Italy was a big thing. Um, so if you're looking for a good case study for strategy, basic Survivor strategy, maybe this season's for you. You know, I feel like you could revolutionize it with Operation Italy, but
Yeah.
every season there's a game changing move. That one was just named so we remember it easier. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, I feel like I feel like Operation Italy in a way is like a diet version of the minority split vote from David versus Goliath. I feel like is the best way. Like, I think it was impressive because of the context surrounding it with the players, but it wasn't a crazy move. I think that's what Survivor 47 is. I don't think it pushed an envelope in any which way. Um, I mean, yes, too, Roy, like there is a new use for Shot in the Dark, but the player like Rachel didn't even think of that as a move. And I don't think I feel like again it was very flashy, right? But I don't think if you look at the actual season and how it worked, it didn't really lead to Rachel playing the idol. Again, it was like Nick playing his fake idol to try to gauge reactions to only play the idol for no
Yeah,
reason.
it's not necessary. Like when I say revolutionize, I mean like a completely new thing, like a
Yeah.
completely new way to influence somebody, a completely new way to do this and do that that hasn't even been like really even thought of, considered. Shot in the Dark being used to gauge reactions. People have played fakes before to gauge reactions. People have idol baited to gauge reactions before. Operation Italy, there have been plenty of named moves. There's a minority split vote. I'm not saying it didn't revolutionize anything, but it didn't revolutionize anything to a degree where people are constantly hawking about it, right? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. To me, revolutionize, either for good or for bad, the do or die twist, the hourglass twist, Gabler, like, things like that.
Yeah.
This season had some things that are interesting and could be used later down the line or could be referenced to, but not didn't reinvent the wheel. It didn't
Yeah.
make a new, but that's okay. That's most seasons of Survivor, to be completely
Yeah.
honest. Like, not every season has to completely reinvent the wheel with Survivor, and I think that's fine. But in terms of the new era, I'd say this falls right about in the in the middle of the pack of that. I think the editing has hit its stride. I think they finally figured it out. I think they know how to work 90-minute episodes now. They did the Keyshawn plot twist thing. That was a great editing little stint there in episode 4. Um,
Mhm.
they've really hit their stride with that. And I think it's the best editing of the new era and one of the best edits of Survivor, personally, for me. But in terms of how it falls, in terms of how people will remember it, I think it's going to be right around the middle. It has a great pre-merge, Jay.
That I'll agree. Yeah.
Solid, solid.
I feel like that's only because the other pre-merges. This is like the one of the only few seasons that don't have a medevac or quit in the
Yeah.
pre-merge outside of like 41. Like I feel like the pre-merge. It also the pre-merge was very balanced in terms of who went to tribal. Like
Yeah, there wasn't
every
a disaster tribe this season.
yeah
There wasn't like a bad guy who had all their tribe in the merge. Wasn't a good guy who had like none of their tribe. Yeah, it's a little like I'd say it's like a little like 43 in a way. I think so. Very balanced at the end with the tribe members. Yeah, I think 43 is a good example. Obviously, the winner's far more obvious this time, but
Mhm.
we'll get into that. But yeah, no, I think it's good. I think off the top of my head, 41's last. I'd put 40. I'd put like 42 and 44 on the same boat. And then I'd do like 43, 46, 40. I don't know. I don't know.
yeah
I'd have to think about. I don't know, but it's in the middle. It's like maybe third or fourth for me in terms of the new era. And in overall season rankings, um, I don't know. We stick it at like 20, and I think it'll be pretty good there.
yeah
I know Randy Bruce, our beloved Randy Bruce, has this season at like top
top
10,
5 yeah
top 5 ever. And I don't know. The sevens are good though. Sevens are good.
yeah
Survivor 7,
yeah.
Dave vs. Goliath, Blood vs. Water.
I'm
Was it
surprised Randy still likes the season in our group chat right during final tribal council. He kept going Sam has this locked in the bag. Sam's winning the season. It's over for Rachel and Sue. And I'm like, Randy, when if Rachel wins, will you still like the season? And he like ignored that reply. So
I feel like this is pretty good. I feel like I'd switch like 45 and 47 and then 47 42. So it'd be 45, 46, 47, 42, 44, 43, 41. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. But yeah, I mean, some people are going to think this is a great season. Some people are going to think this is a bad season. And some people think it's going to be another Survivor season that does some neat stuff, does some stuff kind of decently, not great. And that's how Survivor is. That's how it is. We remind you of the rule book one more time. Doesn't really apply anymore since it's over. But, you know, it's nice to have it up. Next season, Will might abolish the rule book.
Or no. Traditions never die.
Traditions never die. That's good to hear. All right, here we go. Group 1. We're starting with Gabe and Kyle. So Gabe, we're getting right into it here. Han Ray. Gabe was a strong player. Character. And, like, his obvious moment was his convincing Sam in particular, to give up a shot in the dark. That was his big, like, Mount Rushmore moment on Survivor. Yeah. Do I think it warrants a return? No, probably not. I think it was a neat thing, but I don't know. Maybe Gabe could come back, but I don't really think he will. He was my number 1 contender for a while when I was still kind of in La La Land, thinking I'm the best at Survivor StockWatch. It doesn't matter. But to me, his overconfidence was always going to cost him the game. I think he went in incredibly cocky. And I think when you want to play up to the expectation of being on the new era Mount Rushmore, you tend to, if you feel like you got something going for you, chances are you're going to be a little overconfident in how you approach people and how you approach the game. And I think that was always going to be his downfall. I think it became more apparent as the merge kind of came on. But I mean, hey, they could 50 plus confessionals is nothing to laugh at. But I feel like there's so many other people on this season. There's a couple other people that if we're really taking it as only like 2 or 3 people are returning, Gabe's not going to be one of them. Who's more overconfident, him or Rome?
Rome. I feel like Gabe is stuck in a weird season where there's just so many seasons. Like, there hasn't been a returnee season except for Winners at War since Edge of Extinction? Game Changers? Yeah, like, there's so many other people you could bring in outside of Gabe. If he played in like MVGX, right, where there wasn't a lot of time between Second Chance and Game Changers, right, or if he played Co Wrong or something like that, then he would come back, I'd say, pretty easily, but just not now.
It's just not now. And I don't think it was a bad game from Gabe. He made it far enough and he became kind of a leader of the Tuku majority. If that really wasn't if he could find a way to dissuade people from that or find a way to navigate that, like the before, where he could survive with them, I think is a decent shot of winning the game. I think he's got a lot of aptitude for Survivor. But hey, you're Baltimore, you're getting better. The Baltimore roots are getting better every season, Will. Maybe one day.
Well, next season I'm going to be on and I'm going to win. So
Survivor 48 or Survivor 49?
Survivor 50.
Oh, my mistake.
It's all good.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Kyle, let's get to Kyle. Kyle was a shock. We thought he winner potential was through the floor and continued to be through the floor. He became the Bruce Peralt of Survivor 47. If you remember, Bruce, for us, was hanging on a thread. Sorry, Bruce. Episode by episode by episode until he finally got eliminated, and that was Kyle this season. However, shock immunity beast, didn't think he'd win 4 immunities. He never had a shot with the edit. And it was always going to be his downfall. His, once he started winning immunities just in a row like that, it's pretty easy for people to say, yeah, it's your time to go. And, I think people would remember it more fondly if Rachel didn't win 4 immunities. I think that, Kyle winning 4 immunities is a great feat. There was a lot of people out there, so him doing that is really strong. But Rachel also won 4. So, it's in the same season. So, it's I don't know. It's something to keep in mind. I think Kyle couldn't come back, but probably won't. I think he was a nice little I don't know. A nice little I don't know. You know what I mean.
I know what you mean. But that statistic made me realize that the only Tuku member to win individual immunity this season was Rachel, which is kind of insane.
Really?
Yes, because Sue and Gabe both won. So Sue won the split, right? It was Sue and Kyle, and then Gabe won the next one. And then Genevieve. I forgot about Genevieve. Never mind.
Okay, Genevieve. Okay, so
was
one Lavo,
one Lavo,
and like 3 Tuku.
No wonder why they won so much. But Kyle, his story, I don't think he was ever meant to be a main character, and that's okay. I think he was a really cool side character, someone we could just hear on, nice enough, cool underdog, cool physical game. Not the most exciting person, but
a good person to watch. And I was about to pull that up too. Well, his mistake was always mentioning his family. That's something to keep in mind for the future. 48, from what I've seen, has a very old cast. I think the average age is around like 34, 35. And there's only like 1 or 2 people in their 20s. So you're looking it up right now?
Yeah.
Something to keep in mind for the future. When Jeremy got on the scene in 29 and then 131, people started paying attention to the family man person a lot more because they are often the ones that are going to pull out all the stops. They're going to win the challenges. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. They're going to play elite games. And people are going to do that, And so now that's something that people could actively watch for. Maybe it's not so much we're seeing a recent shift from the mother dynamic, right? Like Julie and Maria from 45 and 46 being the targets. Now maybe the family man archetype, the family woman archetype, that kind of person is going to get targeted as the big threat sooner rather than later. And I think Kyle could be a start to that.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of Andrew Savage, maybe in not Game Changers, Second Chance Cambodia.
Maybe,
you have the parallel between Andrew Savage talking about his hot wife and how he was crying about that, and then Jeremy Collins runs away so he can cry about his wife as well. But not much I can really say that we haven't said already about Kyle. He's just there.
He's there. All right. Group 2. We got the last 3. We decided to bunch them all up together. Let's start with Caroline here. Caroline was someone I was always iffy on. I had her at number 7, 4 episodes in a row. That ended up being right. Pat myself in the back there. She was there as a contender. They always had a shot, and she always in the upper half. But she was never really there 1,000%. She was like a good backup, she was somebody that all else failed. You'd be like, okay, Caroline still got a good shot, so we can throw Caroline in there. Her going at 7th as a shock result of Op Italy, it made sense. I think it's fair. I think the game she was playing was great. I think it was under-edited, which is unfortunate. That's usually how it is. I think, Will, you did the comparison like episode 3, episode 4 to Sophie Clark, and I think that couldn't be more apt. I think that Caroline does. I think Caroline, you say that Genevieve does well in 90% of the seasons she goes on or wins 90%. I think Caroline is more that person. I think Caroline goes on most seasons. I think they both could, definitely. But I think she played an Erica-esque game. She was very, very, very smart, very calculated, very measured in the way she approached the game. And I think that if Carolina were to win this season or were to be the second biggest contender, we would have seen more of her relationship with Sue. Apparently, her and Rachel were number ones for a while in the merge. Yeah. Apparently, Caroline and Rachel were number ones for a while in the merge. We would have seen more of that, and we would have seen Caroline like an active like an active social game, an active passive game, if you will. But I like Caroline. Will she come back? Probably not.
No.
But,
see, Caroline makes me realize that Survivor really needs to play into Tragic Boots more. Because if they made Caroline an actual character, like someone to root for, because she had like moments, right? When she's talking about having ADHD, just her overall strategy, her outlook on the game, like she was a very positive force onto the season. I feel like if people were rooting for Caroline even more, it would make Operation Italy that much more impactful, right?
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of times whenever a player gets booted from a big move or from an idol or whatever.
Well, yeah, you're talking about Emily Flippin from 45.
Yeah, they try to hide the people, right? Like someone who gets idled out, right? I'm trying to think of a good example. I can't think of one at the top of my head. Who's someone who's like invisible, I think it's idled out. And it's or like quietly removed from an advantage or twist.
I don't know.
But you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I do know what you're talking about.
I think they gave Caroline that edit, but I feel like if they didn't, I mean, yes, there's gonna be a lot of pushback because people are gonna be like, "Oh, Caroline was robbed." But
when they hit Christian in David versus Goliath in his elimination episode, they didn't give him any screen time, and then he went home. That's an example, but I understand what you mean.
Yeah, I'm talking more like through the course of the season.
Brandon
44.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a good one. Thank you. Like just kind of hidden throughout the season. Like we check in on them. Part of me wants to say Randon as well, 46, but
yeah, I think it'd be amazing to give them more. Can we flash the graphic for this that they start doing this more? Can we flash the graphic that we think they're going to start doing this more so we can make it
what
it is? You know what I'm talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Flash a graphic.
I have a theory.
I
wanted to play it one more time. That they could and should. I agree with you. Start like hamming it up a little bit. You know, like make it gripping again. Make it so that like people are not mad, but upset. They're devastated, you know, get the audience just like feeling heartbroken a little bit. I think that'd be amazing television. And I think if Caroline was this amazing character who had been playing a great game and she got sniped by an amazing, well thought out move when the real target won immunity, like, are you kidding me? That's TV gold to me.
And like I feel like fans would accept it more over like villains, right? Because that's what Survivor's trying to move away from, despite showing people in negative lights, which makes no sense whatsoever. Like lean into it, dude. We'll get to that with like Teeny because I have a lot of things to say. But
I know sure you do.
Yeah, but like make it compelling because I don't think that if let's say like Caroline was a bigger character, right? People were rooting for Caroline. She was a contender along with Andy and Genevieve, and they both vote out Caroline. Like I don't think people are going to react against Andy and Genevieve when it's a clearly well thought out move, right? I think people might be a little fractured. People are going to be upset, but I think that we got to accept that because it just makes for a better season and a better narrative.
Absolutely.
You know?
Couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
Couldn't agree more. Let's go to Andy. Andy was always good. Hi, Andy. Andy was always going to be a star of the season. The first episode established that, for better or for worse. He was always going to be a big character in the season. The question was for us early on, as he started to have strategic confessionals, really think out the game. Was he going to become the Gabler? Was he going to become someone who came from a bad beginning, really narrowed it down, had some good strategy, and won the game? I think his story in retrospect now was that he was always going to want to prove that he was a good Survivor player. I think that first challenge, having that reaction, kind of shell-shocked. Everybody was floored. Everybody thought Andy couldn't win. And Andy wanted to prove that he could win, he was a good player, and that he was playing a good game. That was his downfall. I think that was his tragic flaw in Survivor, is that he was so dedicated to playing a good game, to playing the perfect game, that he ended up telling Rachel all about his game, and that got him sent home instead of Sam. Imagine Andy making the final tribal council. Would he have gotten more votes? No, because I think Rachel was going to win regardless of who was there. But I think that, his hubris came out to play. But comeback arc in Survivor history? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, David Wright is a nice little example there. Fish out of water a little bit. A little fishback action. Like, there's so many good comparisons to make, and he's another episode in that saga. And I think he's a good one. I think he's a good one to look back on, remember Operation Italy, remember the way he kind of played the game, and then, take it into another season. Take it into I want to have a comeback like Andy did. I want to do that. I think he'll come back at some point. I think that 50 is probably his best opportunity to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now they're starting to edit players for Survivor 50. It's like for Emmy consideration or for Oscar consideration. And I feel like Andy is definitely for your consideration. Here is his edit. And I think you'll see that on the Edge trip. And I think you've seen that on the Edge trip. But, Will, what do you think?
Yeah. Andy. I think Andy is such a weirdly complex character, because something that not a lot of people bring up when we talk about Andy is his confidence, which is weird because his whole story is his lack of confidence. But after every single blindside or move he was a part of, he always gloats and laughs about it, which I think adds just a perfect amount of three-dimensional.
It's just a little bit of bitterness that you need with it.
Yeah, like, I love complex characters. I love Lex from Africa, and especially All-Stars. I love Teeny. I love players who you cannot love everything about them because there are absolutely some faults there. And that's what I really like about Andy, is that he is so three-dimensional. I think he's a little too game body near the end of the season, but I feel like it's kind of obvious looking at the whole cast that he's the person that they want to bring back, because I feel like he has the best story of anyone. I only think, though, that we saw glimpses of his overconfidence. I think if he comes back as a confident player, like, hey, I can do it. And I think it's a pre-merge boot in Survivor.
Yeah, I agree. I think he goes into it feeling like, watching his season, going like, yeah, I did well. I had a good shot at winning at the end of it. So I'm going to come in here playing like the boss. And I think that could get him pretty early on. I think you're absolutely right.
Do you know who I'm thinking of when I'm thinking of Andy? This is some bullshit. I know I
crackpot comparisons. You gotta make that a thing next season.
The crackpot comparisons?
Yeah.
I'm thinking Sharin from Cambodia.
Oh yeah.
Right? Right?
I think that's a perfect segue. That's a good one. I like that one.
Thank you.
All right, Genevieve. First, no one thought she was going to win because she wasn't a part of the season for 2 episodes. We slashed her episode 3. That was our biggest. Hey, there you go. There's some. It is a beautifully tragic. Andy is a beautifully tragic Survivor player and character, and that's another example of it. And there's so many ways it can go. So at the beginning, episode 3, Will and I slash Genevieve. We're like, yeah, she's got no shot. We don't think it's gonna happen. We are confident. Every single episode, we were biting our tongues, hoping that we weren't wrong, that we would finally get it right. And just as the season was coming to a close, we were vindicated when we were correct. She kicked in. We thought it was going to be just somebody that could get eliminated early on, maybe early merge, something like that. But then, man, Kim Spradlin, juggernaut player edit came out, and it was crazy. But always looked like the final boss with that in mind, right? Like she came out in this beautiful strategic flair with episode 4, getting rid of Keyshawn, but always felt like she was going to be the final boss for somebody, and she ended up being the final boss. 5th felt like a ceiling, 5th felt like a ceiling for her. It felt like she wasn't going to make fire. She wasn't going to be given that opportunity, and ended up going that way. But a very, very amazing Survivor player. I mean, you're talking really easy social navigation, won immunity when I thought she had no immunity chops, so that's good for Genevieve. She did some good stuff this season, and another complex character too. I was thinking about it, right, and I was thinking about what kind of comparisons you could draw. When you talk about Teeny and Genevieve in comparison, Genevieve played with a very clear lack of emotion, and she tried to play it very kind of cookie cutter. This is what I'm going to do. I'm not here to make friends, and she regretted that. And I think that's a big, nice TV moment and a good character moment. It's like, I regret not wanting to make friends. I regret not going into this thinking I couldn't make friends. I think that's great editing, and I think that's great kind of self-analysis for Genevieve. And do I think she'll come back? Yeah, I do. I think she's one of the 3 most likely.
Yeah, no, I think her letter from home confessional is one of the best of New Era. I know I'm a sucker for recency bias. I say this all the time. Just kidding.
You kind of do.
But no, I'm very aware of recency bias, but it's very rare for a character to strike such an emotional chord, and it was surprising coming from Genevieve. Normally it's like the 3rd placer that always strikes that emotional beat. Like I think of Ben from last season, Jake from 45. He still makes me cry with his his fire victory speech. You can think of Carolyn as well. It's nice for Genevieve to show that emotion. I wish we saw more of it. I wish we saw her struggle a little more. I know that's cruel to say. I wish we saw her upset more. But it's a nice dichotomy, seeing Genevieve playing with no emotion and Teeny playing with too much emotion. And, maybe Rachel played with the in-between, if you wanted to look at it like that, if you want to
I think that's the perfect analysis.
If you want to fit a square peg or a round peg down a square hole, which, it still fits, just not the best. If we wanted to go that route. But Genevieve played, I think she's one of the strongest players of the New Era. I do think she's not the best. I do think voting out Saul, the way it was framed was weird. I think I might have overrated her a little tiny bit. But
I do think she's one of the best players of the New Era.
The best never win of New Era, if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's some missteps there, but I think the way she plays the game and the way she can handle situations in the game, I think that's incredibly swinging in her direction. And so, yeah, I think Andy and Genevieve are the top two people that can come back in another season of Survivor. There's one more that's, I think, pretty obvious.
I'd say two more.
You take some more.
There's one more person I could maybe see as a backup or as an extra.
Maybe. We also say Rome. We also say Rome.
Nah, it's not Rome. Rome's not coming back. It's TK, guys. TK's coming back.
TK! Welcome back to Survivor. Survivor 50 TK is going to become like the Kelly Wentworth. Gonna just flare to the most beautiful degree. All right. We're going to take an ad break, and then we're going to get into the final four and why they lost or won. We'll be right back.
Hi, Survivor Now podcast listeners. I am Katie from KT Designs, better known as Katie Tedesco Art on both Instagram and Etsy. I have been designing and selling Survivor products for over 7 years at my Etsy shop, including replicas like hidden immunity idols and Survivor trading cards with all of the players' stats on the back. I am so grateful for Survivor Now for giving me this shout out and helping me reach even more super fans. I love listening to their podcast. So if you are looking for some really unique reality TV products for yourself or to give a super fan in your life, come check out my Etsy shop at www.etsy.com/shop/KatieTedescoArt.com.
I love bone soup. Don't you?
I love the bone soup. Which is it's my favorite running gag of the last
it's a nice little comic bit we've run.
Yeah. I'm glad that there's a lot of context to explain bone soup.
Absolutely. Let's get into Tini, who I think is one of the most interesting characters of the new era to take a look at. We talk about Charlie Brown players all the time, right? We talk about Owen from 43. We talk about Jake from 45. We talk about those kind of players, and they're like, oh, they're Charlie Brown, but they still have they have tragic flaws, but their character isn't really. You know what I mean. I don't think there's a character as like tragic in the sense of like the tragic flaw wasn't even a tragic flaw, and it was just she was completely flawed. Yeah. And I think that's what made the great TV is that she was a great character and not a good player. She was not a good Survivor player. I think Jake could be a decent Survivor player given some kind of an opportunity. Owen could be a decent Survivor player given another opportunity. I don't think Tini is a good Survivor player. But the way she plays it and the way it's edited, amazing character. She had a great chance early on. We thought she was going to do really well. Will had her number one for 3 episodes.
I regret nothing that her edit was squeaky clean. Those 3 episodes, Rachel had no visibility whatsoever. Bite me. When her closest ally goes out in a blindside, in the next episode starts with her remarking about how sad she is about it.
It's fine.
That is an editing cliche. And that is something that happens to a lot of great players. All I'm saying.
Anyhow, I think the potential of her storyline being a winning storyline was always better than the actual kind of playing out, though. Right?
Yeah.
Like the actual hope of her winning got pretty slim as the season went on. But the potential of it getting better, like when Asia went home, right? And episode 4, she has this confessional of, oh, I have a tough time voting out the people I like or the people I really want to work with in this game. I'm going to have a tough time doing that. And then later in the game, she gets ruthless and cold-blooded and votes out the people that she needs to, and she owns it. And then she makes the end saying that, being like, yeah, I came into the season wanting to protect people, and when Asia and Keyshawn went home right after another, I was devastated. I didn't want to vote them out, but I grew a spine and grew a backbone and made some key moves to win the game. That's where we thought it could have gone.
Yeah.
But it never did. And I think losing at Fire was always going to be Tini's destiny, even though there was some like maybe she could lose at Final Tribal Council. Maybe she could get 5th or 6th or something like that.
Yeah.
It always felt like Final Tribal or Fire Making Loser was going to happen. The emotions always got in the way of the gameplay. The gameplay was not great. It was the complete antithesis of Genevieve this season. And the dichotomy of kind of handling the game, right? Kind of handling Operation Italy in a sense, or handling, I think it was the Final 7 maybe, where Sam is still in the game. Teeny is emotional. She is playing with not a great wealth of care for what she may say and how that could come back to her in a negative way. Whereas Rachel is playing very calm and like really thinking it out and playing through it thoroughly, right? Like that difference was really amazing to watch. And I think that I think it was good TV, man. Like I watch Survivor as an analyst. I watch it to figure out who's going to win, but I really care about great TV because we see so many TV shows nowadays that are focused on character moments and character development and flaws and so many great kinds, like some of the greatest TV shows ever. You're right. You talk about Breaking Bad, The Sopranos,
Better Call
Saul, all that kind of stuff. And they had these huge, amazing character storylines and themes that kind of play through. Survivor does an amazing job with that and does better than any other reality TV show tenfold.
Yes.
And I think Teeny is the perfect example of why it works and why Survivor is so good at making it feel like this is a real TV character. Right, Jay. Teeny losing fire was best for her. Imagine how crestfallen she would be explaining her. Yeah, no, that'd be bad. That'd be rough. I feel like she get. I know Will's got a lot to say, but I'm going to say she could come back. Not sure she would. I think it's more of a case study and more of a great example of why characters like this, people like this on Survivor need to be shown more. We need to have more stories like this because it can show how Survivor really does with editing a show. But
yeah,
go ahead.
All right. So here's the thing with Teeny. I feel like when we talk about Teeny, because we're podcasters and because we try to be nice, I don't feel like we're very negative towards players, right? Like we don't want to add on to the fuel. And plus I know Teeny's been getting a lot of hate on social media, so I don't want to add on to that.
Yeah, Teeny, we love you.
Teeny's awesome. One of my favorite characters of the season.
Yeah, we think you're an amazing person as well.
Oh, 100%. As a player and even character on the season, there's a lot of negativity there, right? And there's a lot of things that we honestly have to bring up and talk about, like the one-sided rivalry with Sam, like a lot of the immaturity that happens. I feel like Genevieve made a really good point when she said that Teeny, weaponizes her own emotions. And I feel like a lot of the things Teeny did, especially in the end game, just flat out were not good. However, that does not take away from Teeny in the pre-merge, who I thought was an extremely rootable underdog and like a very fun player. Yeah. And I think we talk about complexity. We talk about Genevieve and Andy having great storylines. I think Teeny has the storyline of the season in terms of growth, in terms of emotion. Teeny is what you want as a casting choice because Teeny is very genuine. I feel like Teeny is very open about every single emotion.
She's gonna leave it all out there on the island.
Oh, 100%. Like you will know how Teeny is feeling 100% of the time, and that's the one thing I like the most about modern Survivor players, and that's what I look for in characters. Now, near the end of the season, I kind of just wrote her off as a player because it was obvious that Rachel was winning or that Genevieve was somehow going to come up behind or Sam was somehow going to win. I feel like everyone just kind of wrote Teeny off in the end game, but I feel like Teeny has one of the most complex storylines. I love when a player, crosses all borders and boundaries. I like how she never gave up, when she was on the bottom the entire season. And I love my Charlie Brown characters, man. And I feel like I feel like if we talk about Teeny, we have to bring up the bad parts. Teeny was one of the worst Survivor players of the merge, but they still tried. And that's still like the best part about this cast in particular, I think.
And I think a big thing is that we can really appreciate when they bring people on like this, when we talk about Andys and Teenies and Jakes. And players like that can win. We're not saying they can't, right? Marianne was what we thought was a humongous character, and that's what she was going to be throughout Survivor 42. But then she transformed into a really savvy, plucky underdog kind of player that won the game. You know, not saying those type of players can never win, but I think it's amazing television when we have people who have, like, I think that's one of the best things, probably the best thing about the new era, is that they really edit everybody with complexity, even if there's like, you know, one episode or 2 episodes and that's all they got. Everybody's got some kind of theme, some kind of flaw. There's something going on. Nope. Okay, whatever. There's always something going on with them. And I think, you know, Teeny had a lot of negatives this moment, a lot of positives, you know, like a lot, you know, the identity confessional in, what was it? I think like episode, I think it was 10.
Yeah. Just look for the complex personality positive, because everything after that's just negative coded.
Yeah, episode 10. Yeah, I think that's an amazing episode, and I think that shows that it doesn't never have to be, unless it's purely entertainment, like Rome in a sense.
Yeah.
There can be positives and there can be negatives. There can be a balance. And that kind of player can win as well. And that's why I think Kenzie is one of the best edited winners probably ever, because of the way she was edited negatively at the beginning, positively at the end. There's so many good examples. And I think that Teeny is just another great example of edited in a beautifully tragic, complex way.
Yeah, and plus heel turns Survivor is rare, man. Like what? There's Kenny from Gabon. I can give you Chrissy Hoffbeck, but like, how many players start out as a hero and end up being a villain? There's not a lot.
Not a lot. It's usually the other way around.
And usually too, the villains are just like game players, you know, like Chrissy Hoffbeck, who wasn't that much of a villain, by the way. I don't know why people consider her to be.
I don't know why people think she's a villain. I think she was just playing the game. God, I want Chrissy to come back so bad. Okay.
Me too.
Sue!
Tried, to be fair. Hi, Sue. Can we get Sue on Survivor Social?
Can we get Sue on the pod?
Can we get Sue on the pod, bro?
That'd be pretty cool.
Running gag. All right.
Can we get someone on the pod? Can we get Survivor legend Elizabeth Filsarki on the pod?
No. Can we get Kel Gleason instead?
Kel Gleason. We'll think about it. All right. Let's just get into it. I think we should stop. Another great character. I think it was a little bit more understated. Sue is a character, and Sue is kind of a player of the game. She was a really great contender. For me, she was number 1 for 2 episodes, just like Gabe. But the strength as a contender fell off a cliff at the merge. She just didn't have a lot of agency in the game. Let the 2 Coup Alliance dominate. And it kind of just all fell into place that Sue was going to lose at the end there. And her playing Kingmaker at the end didn't matter as much either. You know, like we said, she was going to be the one who decided the winner of Survivor 47. And that didn't really even matter. So Sue just kind of fell out. Yeah. We also said, I think like midway or to the beginning of the season, that Sue was not the best at articulating things, not the best at kind of saying what she needed to say, having good points in her confessionals. It always felt like there was something lacking there, and that she could have troubles if she were to make it to the final tribal council. I think that's what happened. I think Sue answered, but she didn't really give answers a winner would say at final tribal council. And I think that is another kind of big thing leading to that downfall. Don't think she'll come back on Survivor, but I think she's a great addition in the mom archetype. I think now the moms are going to have a little bit of a better shot, maybe with this Sue edition, but I don't know. I think Sue's good.
Yeah, no, I feel like Sue, kind of like Kyle, just kind of existed this season. Like, wasn't anything crazy or spectacular. I think in the next 3 seasons, we won't really talk about Sue Smay as much as, maybe like Genevieve or Rachel. However, I liked Sue's presence this season. I liked how like childish her rivalry with Kyle was. Oh, yeah. Like just getting hung up on Tweedledee and Tweedledum. I do like her parchments in the season. Something that we didn't really bring up, but I liked her parchment for Kyle. And then there's a parchment like referencing Caroline.
Yeah, it was when Andy went home. It was like Caroline, I think.
Yeah, so I like that. I just don't think that she was the most passive player this season, I think. Or at least of the merge, right? I feel like once we get pre-merge, it's hard talking about like TK and John Levette. But, not everyone has to be a great Survivor player. Not everyone needs to control votes. Sometimes Sue came in. She was a sidekick. Do you know who Sue reminded me of? Kind of, in a way. Who was that one person from Edge of Extinction? Lauren O'Connell, in a way. Because Lauren O'Connell, just according to some of the YouTubers I watch, gave sidekick vibes, right? Like always working with Kelly Wentworth until the very end. Always siding up with another big player. And so no one ever talks about Lauren, but we got to when we talk about Kelly in Edge of Extinction or even Chris Underwood at the final 6 vote. That's kind of like what Sue was, right? She worked with Caroline the entire season. And then once Caroline went home, she worked with Rachel, helped Rachel with her idol play at the final 6. And that eventually gave Rachel the win.
I think that's good. I think you need a person like that. And I think Sue played that role, and Sue played, she did a good job of that role. So thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Sue.
We go to Sam now, second place. Good player, good character, always present throughout the game. Surprise Austin of the season. I think a term going forward is who's the Austin? Who's the kind of maybe big player, younger person archetype who's going to play a good game, but we think is going to get voted out right before the end. But actually makes the final tribal council, and I think Sam is the second addition in that kind of saga. Thought he could make it far, but surprisingly made it to final tribal council and made it to the end. Had a shot to win. Getting 1 vote shocked me at first. I was like, really, 1 vote? I thought Sam had the best final tribal council answers, honestly. I thought he did a good job. I think his debating with Rachel was really competitive, and I think he did a good job with that. But I think that we're seeing more now that with the new era, with all the 7-1s, right? People are always like, oh my God, why is this vote 7-1 again, right? It was Erica, it was Marianne, it was Gabler, it was Jam. Past 2 seasons were 5-3, but 7-1 again, right? I think it's because, and I'm pretty sure this is how it's going to be, if it's a unanimous winner, like if it's someone that's like, this person deserves to win unanimously, someone like Rachel, there's always going to be a contingency that like, hey, we should give this person second because we think they played the second best game at the end of it, right? And I think Sam was that person. It's like a participation trophy. It's like a, hey, you participated, you played a good game, not enough to win, but enough to get second and maybe a little bit more money than third place. And I think that Sam got that. And I think that's going to be a thing now. I think that unanimous votes are really dead. I think that people are just too nice now to give away $1 million unanimously. There's going to be one vote for somebody. I think that's how it's going to be. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I think if it's a perfect game scenario where someone has like, I did not receive a single vote the entire game as a crux of their winning argument, then perfect game should be in the cards for that. But otherwise, it's fine.
Yeah.
And last thing I want to say before I'll get, Will, you can let it out. He was always a contender, right? He was always there, always at the 6 or 7 of the 5 mark. It felt a little bit like the Carson debate from 44 in the sense of, did his content matter? Did it really matter when it needed to matter? He had his biggest section in the pre-merge. That was his biggest strategic kind of outburst. He had a lot of confessionals then. His post-merge gameplay was good, and he got some content. He kind of cratered comparatively to Rachel, And exactly right. Kyle voting for Sam because Sam's ever. Yeah, absolutely. But when you talk about surging, right? Surging in Survivor as a contender, people like to see someone that isn't doing well at the beginning of the game that surges at the end of the game, right? That's why we see Kenzie win the game. That's why we see Jam Jam win the game. That's why we see Gabler win the game. That's why we see those players win the game, is because people like a comeback story. And I think that Sam had a comeback story, but it was a little late, He dominated the beginning of the game, lost Sierra in the middle, and then came back at the end. But I think people are far more interested in giving the money to someone that starts the game off bad and then comes back in the blaze of glory and ends up winning the game. 93 is he got 93 confessionals?
Sam had screen time, dude. It's crazy because I saw this point. I'm sorry for cutting you off entirely. That's my bad. But the screen time this season, Rachel having the most since Kelly Wigglesworth, Sam having one of the biggest confessional counts ever. It's crazy because it felt like it felt top heavy in a way, because I feel like Caroline deserved more screen time. I feel like we didn't really hear from Sue or Kyle that much. We didn't really hear from Tuku at all. Everyone else, I feel like we could have heard from Saul earlier on. But it felt pretty balanced between the big players and characters. At the end game, Genevieve, Sam, Rachel all had the same. Genevieve, Sam, Rachel, Andy all had the same amount of screen time. It felt, and so, it was a interesting. It's interesting hearing him having 93 confessionals.
It's crazy. I think it's crazy. I think it's a sign he could come back. I think it's a sign. There's potential there. He had the most confessionals in the finale with 10. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
And he had 11 in episode. He has a lot of. It's crazy. I don't know, man. I think that he could come back, maybe. But I think he's. I think it's an example of Survivor just kind of letting it fly a little bit, letting people get more confessionals. They're letting it loose. Rome had 38. With
Rome was always getting 38 and 6.
Rome was always getting. Gabe had 52 with 10. I mean,
but
people go crazy.
People be crazy, but no, Sam I think could be an alternate for 50. I don't see him being on the short list, but I can absolutely see them trying to get the jock and then someone declining, right? Let's
say they get try to get Austin on 40 on 50.
And Austin says no, and they're like, oh, let's just get Sam.
Yeah.
I think
that. I see that. And now
the biggest StockWatch win I think we've had
in history.
Yeah.
I got a lot to say with this one, so here we go. Will cooked, and I'll pat myself in the back a little bit, but Will cooked. Here we go. The most classic winner edit of the new era. She had a great premiere, underrated pre-merge, great merge episodes, hits her stride late. That is every single Edgic note you want to see. Proves the new era isn't all that different from regular Survivor. They're still going to edit classic kind of winners edits, but they're going to be more accommodating. I think that's the key. I think that they're more accommodating to the, like the Marianne edit, the Gabler edit. They're more accommodating to that kind of edit, and they're more interested with playing with it and changing it up every season. But Rachel was 100% classic. She had the little moments, right? The rice in episode 2, naming the breadwinners episode 4, the bigger episodes, and she was dropped as a threat. I was talking about this with my cousin's boyfriend last night. Like Rachel had, what am I trying to say here? Yeah, she was always dropped as a threat at the beginning of the merge, but then she's completely dropped. Like she was named as a threat, and then nothing ever came out of it. That's like the key to a win, right? It all started to click, right? I think for me, the biggest moment that it was kind of like, oh yeah, Rachel's winning, was the Saul's Secret Angel scene. That was the key for me, because it was like, why are we seeing this? This doesn't matter. Especially Saul went home like right after. I think it mattered because Rachel got Saul's vote. I think that's how it happened. There was an argument. There's an argument I kind of agree with. She was spared by the safety without power, which is, a little weird, maybe a little plugged. And I think that it's a little interesting to put that in there. She made the most of it, though. I think that, I agree with the argument that it was kind of an interesting spot to put it in. But I think that as long as somebody can make the most of it, I'm okay with it. And Rachel surely made the most of it. And I think that's how Survivor does it now. I think Survivor is okay with letting it fly a little bit in terms of advantages, maybe playing a little fast and loose. And that's okay as long as the person who survives either goes home quickly after or makes the most of it and wins the game. I think Rachel made the most of it.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and interject?
Yeah, no, I feel like a running theme, this is not really about Rachel, more about Survivor 47, is that it feels more comfortable. I think that's the best way to describe the editing. Like, there's been the practice, there's no more growing pains with Survivor New Era. Yeah. If you're not a fan of Survivor New Era, then you're missing out. That's all I'm going to say.
I agree.
But no, Rachel is such an interesting player to compare with Sam, because I feel like I wrote in my notes going into their final tribal council that they both tried to pump themselves up as underdogs, if you notice. And I feel like they are very big underdogs in very different ways. I feel like Sam had a lot of momentum pre-merge, and then it all dropped off once the merge hit and slowly rebuilt. I feel like Rachel started off just on the wrong foot and didn't really get back onto the wagon until the Tiana vote. Yes, Rachel was saved by Saul's vote, and I feel like if the safety without power never existed, we would just talk about Rachel as a robbed boot. Yeah. Someone who would have gotten 0 screen time, by the way. I guarantee you Rachel would have had no content whatsoever and would have just been on people's short lists of like the Kelly Wentworth-esque returnees. But I think Rachel is a very savvy player, and that's something we didn't see a whole lot of until later on. I feel like Rachel is just very aware of her surroundings. I think she had a little bit of Genevieve in her with, her ability to talk to people and kind of turn her emotions off. But she wasn't a robot the entire time either. No. She had her inner Kyle winning 4 immunities. I feel like Rachel is just a very balanced player. Someone who didn't really excel in any which way, but just a very strong, solid player.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to add on to that. Physically dominant competition wasn't that bad. Sam was all right. Sue was decent competitions. Winning 4 in the new era as woman is amazing. And winning 4 in the new era, period, is amazing. With that, the advantages and the positioning, right? We talk about the final. I think the final 8 was one of the most catalytic rounds in the game, in the sense that it kind of outlined who are the big threats, who are not the threats, right? Kyle, Sam, and Genevieve were the big 3 threats, and the other 5 were not. And that kind of positioning that Rachel kind of had laid the ground for how the rest of the game was going to play and how she eventually kind of settled into it. I think she could come back. I think she's one of the better winners overall, not just new era. I think she's one of the better winners overall in Survivor history. I haven't watched the ranking the female Survivor winners, but I'm sure she's like A or S tier. I think she played an amazing game. I think she could come back. I hope she comes back. I like Rachel.
Yeah. No, I feel like Rachel is not going to come back for 50, but I see her coming back for the next returnee season. I don't know. I do think she might be a one and done though. I feel like she would get asked back. She's number 3 in terms of who I think could come back. I think it's Andy number 1, 100%. I just think in terms of production, that's what they want. I think Genevieve is second because huge fan favorite strategist. Rachel's number 3 just because she has no redemption. She just comes back for the love of the sport.
And then John Roberts number 4.
No, it's TK Foster, bro. What you talking about?
TK Foster.
Also coming in on Survivor StockWatch. He's actually the new permanent host, by the way.
TK Foster?
TK Foster, yeah. We talked about this. But no, I see Sam as a number 4. But that's kind of strange, but also I feel like
that's a little strong for me.
That's a little strong.
One of the best Survivor players ever is a little bit of a stretch. I think that there is some. I think to be one of the best players ever, you have to play multiple seasons and be dominant a lot, or you have to have like an exceedingly dominant Survivor win. I think she had a dominant Survivor win. I don't think it was exceedingly dominant like Kim Spradlin, Tony Vlachos. I think she's, in terms of winners and players, I'll give her top 75. I think top 75, top 50 if you really want to go there. I think that I'd go top 50 too. I think that top 50 is a good spot. I don't know where exactly she falls in there, but dang,
I'd give her 45th.
I'll put her right around 47, I'd say.
47?
Put her right around 47. All right. Time to get into the final edge of the season. There she blows. There it is. Yada da. The final edgic. Everyone was positive for me in the finale. I probably would have changed Teeny to over the top medium overall. I think that makes more sense in retrospect. I did this like 2 nights after the finale, but Genevieve being CP overall, Sam, Sue being middle road medium, Rachel being CP. I think that all makes sense. Mm-hmm. And then there's Will giving Teeny over top medium. I think that's fair. That's it, man.
Yeah, that's the edge. I gave Sam complex, but that's just because I thought some of his confessions were more complex. When he mentioned his dad rooting for him, I think that callback from home, as pointless as that confessional was, because surprise, surprise, your dad's rooting for you on Survivor. Shocker. Oh my God.
Big one.
Sorry to make fun of you, Sam. Please come on Survivor StockWatch.
Any final thoughts on the Edgic?
Not on the Edgic, man. I mean, is there any trends? So admittedly, this is my first time doing an Edgic for a season of Survivor. I will say that. So it was a lot of fun this season doing it for the first time. I don't think I did that bad. Jack,
you did good. You did good, I'd say.
There's a few weird things. I think Rome had like an episode where I gave him episode 2 Rome. But I don't think there's a bad choice. So there's nothing to say about the Edgics. They've been speaking for themselves, and they confirmed what I have known since episode 1 that Rachel would win.
I agree. Let's get closing statements here. Survivor Now, year in review. That's coming up in like a couple days. So definitely check that out. Definitely go ahead and watch that. Ranking every season of Survivor. That's starting in January. I will not be there. But obviously you know that Survivor Thailand is the best season of all time, according to me. 100%. Definitely.
Brian Heidick is your favorite winner, right? Like in terms of credibility. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, just a great heroic family figure that won Survivor. The new card game. It's a Patreon exclusive. Randy's gonna play that. I think Josh Green is gonna play that. If you want to watch that on Patreon, check it out.
Yeah.
I think pretty cool. Join the Patreon to see that. That's definitely important. Check out the shop. Get Survivor StockWatch merch. It's obviously the best show on the platform. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And
every time we do the closing statements, there's always a new slide. There's always something new.
There's always something new. It's always something new. And lastly, I'd like to say thank you.
Thank you.
We've been doing this 4 seasons now. I have the 4 times we had a guest in the corners. I had our previous episode 13's podcast, Top Mid, and then I had our first ever podcast, Bottom Mid. Thank you. It has been an honor hosting Survivor StockWatch since 2023, like early 2023. It's been fantastic doing it. I've loved every second of it, and I hope I can come back as soon as possible. Get back on the stonks, do some crackpots, some comparisons. It's been a blast. I'm so thankful that y'all have given me the opportunity for that. But Will,
here comes the waterworks. Someone's cutting onions.
This has been the stocks.
Calm down, Mr. Jack Powell.
Do you have anything else to say?
Mr. Jack, it was an honor doing it's been an honor serving you coffee for 23 days. See you on the other side, brother. But no, thank you for all the seasons, the guests we've had. I feel like Survivor StockWatch is one of the best Survivor podcasts on the platform. Our commentary, I think, has only improved. I think the way we interact with each other has improved over the years. And if there's ever a one-off episode where you're free and you want to join in on the stocks and you don't want to even if you're not doing the actual stocks anymore and you just want to talk Survivor, open invitation. Don't worry about it. And
happy to stop by.
Oh yeah. Don't be a stranger, Mr. Jack Powell. And we talked about this before, but me and Jack might meet up tomorrow. He might come to my place of work.
Yeah, I'm heading to the beach for some pre-New Year's fun. So I hope I can see Will get a quick pic posted on the story, posted the Survivor podcast.
A nice bookend of
a nice chapter closing moment.
Oh yeah, but don't worry, Jack. You're not going to be a stranger to Survivor now.
No.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried. I'm not sad. I'm not saying goodbye because you're not leaving forever.
Let's just see you later.
Yeah.
Let's just see you later. We thank you all.
We thank you
for watching this finale episode of Survivor StockWatch. It has truly been an honor being correct basically all season and proving to you that we've been correct all season. We thank you all for your time, your patronage, and I thank you personally for 4 great seasons of StockWatch, and I cannot wait to be back very, very, very soon. Will be the next host of Survivor StockWatch for season 48. It's going to be the best season ever. I can't wait to watch, and I hope you watch as well. And with that, goodbye.